Today, and they came early today to run through some sets. It's an open.
Let's go.
That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT!
Let's go.
What is going on? The Raptors win. What? Who saw that coming? On the road to a team that is definitively better than you. On the road against a team without RJ Barrett, without Emmanuel Quickley, without Jakob Poeltl, going up against two big centers. Come on, man. You got to give credit where credit is due. The Raptors decide to punt the tank tonight. They go crazy. I mean, honestly, this is I don't know what you want to call it. You want to call this the Bruce Brown game? You want to call this the Gary Trent Jr. game? Do you want to call this the Thaddeus Young game? 16 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, kind of turning back the clock on his averages. Do you want to call this the Jalen McDaniels game? I mean, he was shockingly productive. I don't know. Who do we call this? We call this... Well, we're not going to call this the Grady Dick game. We're not going to call this the Jonte Porter game because he left early and he scored 0 points. Probably not going to call this the Scotty Barnes game either. Thad got the chain. Yeah, I could see that. I mean, look, man, 32 minutes. Thaddeus Young being a super pro. The guy who had 0 trade value suddenly has some trade value. SP saying Nwora game. I'm going to agree with that, actually. I think this is the Jordan Nwora game. Look, man, Gary Trent Jr. gets off to a blitzing start. You know, Scotty finds him a bunch of times. Schroeder finds him a bunch of times. And it's just like, it's a good rhythm, right? Scotty did not have a great rhythm tonight. Everything's short, right? So let's talk about this game. Overall, very impressive win. On the road, yeah, they're missing Patrick Williams. Yeah, they're missing Zach LaVine. I get all of that, right? But you beat this team handily. And you weren't supposed to. You absolutely were not supposed to. The Raptors were not favored to win this game. Lord knows they have lost plenty of games recently where they were favored. Need I remind you, you actually went into Chicago with a pretty healthy roster earlier in the year with Jakob Poeltl, with OG Anunoby, with Pascal Siakam, and lost. Do we remember that game? Yes, we do. And, of course, you've lost to the Detroit Pistons. And you've lost to just embarrassing teams. So frankly, the Raptors' guts in the second half, winning both the third quarter and the fourth quarter, was really impressive. Jordan Nwora, you know, seeing shades of just, I mean, the shooting is probably, you could say it's unsustainable, 4 for 5 from 3, but he took great shots. And this is who he is. This is who he's been. Jacinto has missed the plot. Get the ball out of Barnes' hands all the time and the others will play better. I mean, are you... I don't think that's it at all. I don't think Scotty's play finishing was great tonight, but his ability to draw a double, he's learning, man. There's a couple of times where the Bulls threw a quick trap on him in the corner, and I saw either a turnover or he was in trouble. Like, the ball is like slipping through, and maybe it's just not clean. It's not clean. And this is going to be a learning adjustment, right? He hasn't seen a ton of double teams. Now, in theory, I always theorized, again, it's one thing in theory, it's another thing in practice. I always felt that Scotty would be a guy who would be unusually good at dealing with doubles. It's been hit or miss, right? Found Thad for that beautiful shot. I think Thaddeus Young tonight, like, really solid performance, but I think a lot of that had to do with the playmaking of Bruce Brown, right? The playmaking of, you know, you could say Dennis Schroeder. Yeah, for sure. You could also say Thaddeus Young's playmaking had a lot to do with guys getting open for 3. It was a team effort. This was a very balanced attack. Every single starter in double digits. And the one guy that Raptor fans are probably expecting to put up big numbers, he ends up with 13 points, right? So, yeah, but he's also the guy getting the doubles. He's also the guy getting, Alex Caruso. Alex Caruso, for those who are unfamiliar with his game, is probably the premier defender. Now, when you have other options, you have RJ Barrett, you have Manuel Quickley, or in past iterations, you had OG Anunoby, Pascal Siakam. The help can't really help on Alex Caruso. So Scotty just gets to bully ball Alex Caruso without having a second defender chipping into the cookie jar, coming and meeting him at the rim. His play finishing has been pretty awful, to be honest. Like the jump shooting, I think he's at like 14 or 15% over the last 6-7 games. It's been really bad, right? But everything's short. Nothing's left or right. It's just short. Everything is short. Short at the rim, short on jumpers, short at the mid-range. Everything is short. You're seeing him not go for rebounds, right? To me, this is a player with dead legs. Straight up, just dead legs. You're not seeing him get a ton of extension. You're not seeing him get a lot of burst. When he goes for a drive, it's just slow. So this is like fatigue. It's like overwhelming muscle fatigue over a very long season so far, and a ton of minutes for him. On the Bulls side, man, oh man, DeMar DeRozan, made it interesting late. I would assume was really carrying early. He picks up that fourth foul. I think that was a really, really big thing. And boom, I believe it was Scotty Barnes who got that fourth foul on him, right? Getting to the line. So yeah, overall, I think, there's encouraging things here for the Raptors. Garrett Temple got in before garbage time. I don't think that's happened at all. Grady Dick, you know what? People are going to see 0 points, 0 for 1. They're going to be like, here we go. Bust again. I thought he played a really solid game, man. I think he took what was coming to him. I think he took shots that were there. He probably could have taken a couple that he didn't take, but I think he had some pretty smart reads overall. I remain very impressed by his playmaking, right? SP saying Grady looked great. I agree, man. I think he looked fine. Like great might be a stretch, but I think he looked good. He's holding his own, right? He's getting clutch time minutes. These are invaluable runs for him. In terms of just Jalen McDaniels, like he's been really hyper aggressive getting into games lately. I wonder what has been said to him. This wasn't necessarily the case earlier on in the season, sort of floating around a lot. Now he's just like grab, go, attack, grab, go, attack, grab, shoot. And you know what? The Raptors are suddenly a little bit bigger on the wings. It's weird. Like you're playing a slightly bigger lineup, right? You're playing a lot of Scotty at 1. Right? Nwora is a bigger guy. He's 6'7", 6'8". Jalen McDaniels is about 6'8", 6'9". So, yeah, you don't have a center in there, so you can't overwhelm teams with your size. But I'm very curious to see what it will look like when they do get a 7-footer back inside, right? This is a call-in show. Feel free to call in. I'll apologize in advance. A little bit late starting this live, so I hope you guys had a nice little break to refresh during this. Let's bring on Marwan. Marwan, what's up? Am I saying that right?
Yeah, you are. How's it going, Rob?
Not too bad. How are you?
I'm good. I actually just called in last show. I don't know if you remember or not, but I literally
Yep.
was talking about how how I thought Gary had a lot of kind of had a lot more upside than we give him. I think, funnily enough, I think today was probably one of his best games of the season.
Sure. It was.
In terms of everything. I even thought his defense, to be honest, was pretty disruptive. He held his own. So it was just really impressive to see what he can do, especially with a lot more reps when a lot of guys are out.
Yeah, he's streaky, right? He's streaky. The issue with Gary, as it has always been somewhat of an issue with Gary, is what does he do for you when his shot is not falling, right? Can he be a playmaker? Can he be, someone who's disruptive defensively? Can he get on the glass and get you like 6-7 rebounds? Can he, get into the passing lanes? And just generally speaking, like, yeah, it's not a good thing when you're a high volatility one way player. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So he does have to edge out the rest of his game to become a little bit more than that, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. And
I agree with you that he does have, like, I was talking to someone on a Twitter Spaces once, and they said, I don't think he's an NBA player. I was like, whoa. What? Like he would definitely get rotation minutes on almost every single team in the league.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think for me, I attribute a lot of this game. I know we like to praise the guys and say that we played a good game. I'll be honest. I think this was such a terribly coached game by Billy Donovan. To be honest, I mean we're
Yes.
so undersized, and you saw a lot of perimeter ball from the Bulls tonight. You didn't see any paint touches. Very rarely were they getting it into Vucevic or Drummond in the post. Like I think this
I
game
think
could
the
so easily
defense.
have been winnable for them.
Here's the thing. I think the defense had a lot to do with that too, right? Like, there was a lot of stunting. I think they forced Vucevic to catch the ball a little bit further out. I think they battled early. There was a little bit of help from Scotty also, on drop coverage. Like, I think they played it pretty well and they sort of forced the Bulls away from the obvious strength. But I think like the obvious strength naturally would have been like to pound it inside. And that makes sense. You have a 7-footer, but that 7-footer was out there stretching the floor and, shooting threes. So that kind of, if you're playing them away from the obvious strategy, they got to go to something else. Just like, the Raptors, if the Raptors could do what they wanted to do, they would have isolated Scotty Barnes and DeMar DeRozan all day, right? But the Bulls try to force you away from that, where whenever he caught DeMar on a one-on-one, they were sending, like aggressive trap doubles and usually like in the corner of the floor, which is not good. Like you want Scotty more to the center of the floor, but he's getting trapped in the corner, trying to pitch out. And if it's not getting picked off, it's kind of like, it's a lot of hot potato. So I'm saying like, yeah, the Raptors would have loved to isolate Scotty on the block against DeRozan every single time, but the Bulls are obviously going to force you away from that. And just like the Bulls would have loved to put Vucevic down in the post and just have him, have the easiest night of his life scoring over Thaddeus Young. I think Thaddeus Young did a lot to dissuade him from doing that.
Yeah, I thought he was impressive tonight as well, to be honest.
Yeah.
I was watching the Bulls stream actually, and the commentators were going off about Thad and how he's good at like
They
after
love
such a
him.
long time in
They
the
love
league. So
him. They love him. He's an ex-Bull. Every time there's a stream or whatever, like they never waste an opportunity to say really nice things about him.
he got the chain tonight, I think, didn't he?
Yes.
Yeah. But it's nice. It was also nice tonight to see Bruce Brown finally play a good game. I think he's been so questionable recently. You've kind of already hinted at that, but it was nice to see him kind of come to his own tonight. Although I will say that some of the turnovers in the first half were painful.
Yes, they were.
So
Yeah.
I think, I don't know what's going on. Like the ball has just been slipping. It just hasn't been sticking pretty well with him. But
Yeah, it hasn't been a great at all for him. Like it hasn't been a great start in Toronto. I think like the first game notwithstanding, every single game since, there's been a lot of loose play with the basketball. There's been like a lot of miscommunications defensively. I wonder how much like getting a few practices under his belt has helped him sort of like understand the players around him. Like Bruce is a guy who he plays off of guys very well, right? So he's the type of guy who I think would really benefit from a training camp. Now, will that training camp be here? But I'm relieved to see him, at least have a positive game where, if you're a rival general manager thinking, hey, is this guy my completing piece on a championship? I don't know. Did you see that trade that's been making its rounds of Dennis Schroeder and Jakob Poeltl to OKC?
I saw it, and if I were the Raptors, I would take that in an absolute heartbeat without even thinking twice.
You don't mind Bertans' contract?
Honestly,
Like,
I would eat it. I would eat it. I think I really like Poku, to be honest. Like
really?
picks aside, I think there's so much untapped potential there. I think OKC just has so much depth now, where it's like they really can't get him minutes anymore. But last season when he was playing really well. So I think there's definitely something to be unlocked there.
Hi, I'm Dirk saying, why would OKC make that trade though? That's a good point. I think they probably make that point because Dennis shores up their bench guard unit. He also has some familiarity with that organization, and he had a lot of success with that organization. I would argue it's his most successful run as a basketball player. And you could also argue that Jakob Poeltl pretty much puts them into a championship conversation. I know that seems like a hot take for some people, but you really do need to see how that team has dealt with size occasionally. Like occasionally when they have been exposed, it has always been because, playing Chet at center has its limitations, regardless of how well he blocks shots or whatever. Like he's still you don't want to burn him out at 21, 22 years old, especially coming off a year where he was injured the entire year. banging with bigs. And, you know, the same theory that would extend towards the Raptors trading for Jakob would be the same, you know, theory for the OKC Thunder, except that team would be much, much closer to a contention window. I don't know. I guess it depends on their thinking on, you know, how close they think they are to actually contending,
Yeah.
right? And
What are your thoughts on the I've been seeing that Evan Fournier and Quentin
Quentin
Grimes
Grimes.
package from the Knicks, and I
Mhm.
think Quentin actually went down injured tonight. I don't know if he got back up, but it did look pretty bad.
Oof.
So I
Bad
wonder
for
if
them,
that,
bad for him.
yeah. So I wonder if that changes the complexion of things.
Um, Guys have been traded like when they have minor injuries. It's probably not an issue if the Raptors
Yeah.
really want to make that trade. It probably incentivizes the Knicks to make that trade. Conversely, if the Raptors are really serious about tanking, I mean, every one of these wins, man, it puts you one step further out of that fifth, you know, that all elusive thing that you got to do to keep your pick, which is get to fifth, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, now the prospect of catching a team like Portland just becomes that much harder. You beat a team like Chicago, granted. I made a video saying the Raptors refused to tank, and then the Raptors proceeded to go out and look like they were tanking for many games. You know,
Mm-hmm.
playing Grady down the stretch, pulling Thad, not playing Otto, resting RJ, resting IQ. I mean, damn, you know. But then you look at it this way, and you're like, they're much closer to the play-in than they are to keeping their pick right now.
They are. And honestly, I think it just comes down to the fact that you have winning players. I mean, I don't think these guys really want to tank. Like you saw how Scotty that one missed the one missed call at the end of the game where we challenged. You can tell it obviously meant a lot. So
Dude, that felt like the Zepridar film. Like
exactly.
the number of angles that they looked at that play, it was like, oh my god, did it touch a fingernail? Like what? And I have noticed quite a few times that the Raptors have lost challenges that they should not have lost. So therefore, what is the point of the challenge? If
I
the
think
ref that is blind calls it wrong and then calls it wrong on the review, like I understand the rule is that there must be overwhelming
yeah,
evidence,
conclusive evidence. Yeah.
conclusive evidence to overturn a call. And I get that. But at the same time, like I don't actually get that. I think if you have like you should erase the call that was made and recall it based on the evidence you have.
Mm-hmm.
That would be the right thing to do. That would be the logical thing to do. Because if you did it wrong, then now the burden of proof is on the challenge. But I don't know. To me, it's never made sense. You have the time to review it, just review it fresh. Just say, okay, if we had the benefit of viewing it from this angle when we made the call, would we have made that same call? That should be the revision, in my
No,
opinion.
I agree. I agree. What are your thoughts about the kind of Bruce Brown trade prospects? Because I'm seeing some chatter about him maybe being a candidate to not be moved by the deadline, but instead be moved on draft night. So I wonder how that would look in terms of like whether it means we move up or how that would be.
I think, you know, reports have said that the Raptors are open to trading a lot of players, right? Um, I mean, hi, I'm Dirk saying, did you see the report from Evan? Who's Evan? Stating that Pelicans would be willing to move Jonas Valanciunas and Dyson Daniels for the right package. They are looking for a center upgrade. Is Jakob Poeltl a significant upgrade on Jonas Valanciunas? I guess it depends on what you need from your center. Probably with Zion Williamson not being a super great shooter, it's not the greatest fit. But also with Zion not being the greatest defender, it might be the greatest fit. I don't know. Probably have to throw some picks in there to get Dyson Daniels back. But would you? Okay, I'm curious, Marwan. Would you do two picks and Jakob for Jonas Valanciunas and Dyson Daniels?
Um, Two
You,
picks in Jakob for Jonas and Dyson.
yeah, like two not great picks. So like maybe your OKC pick and I don't know your Indiana pick, like your 2026 Indiana pick.
I think honestly, I think although I do like Dyson as a player, I think there's so much upside there. But I do also think that if he were to come, I think it's getting a bit redundant. In terms of
But
the
he's
point
an
guard
actual
position.
point. But he's an actual point of attack defender.
I
You don't
mean,
have anyone on this team that is that.
hypothetically speaking, Schroeder should be, but
Shooter's 31 or 30
yeah,
years old. I mean, and he's not 6'7". It does make a difference. Like in my opinion, if you had a trio, like granted the shooting would not be amazing if Scotty continues to struggle, but Dyson's been okay from three. I don't think he's not a great shooter, but he's certainly an evolving shooter. So I think you replace a lot of what you lost with OG with Dyson Daniels, but you get way more playmaking out of that position and natural ball skills. Like he's a
yeah.
legit point guard-ish. He's point guard adjacent. Like he's a guard. And the defense is incredible for a guy his age. And the
hmm
Raptors really like him. I can tell you that.
On the flip though, I will say that we've seen how absolutely tormenting it's been to watch his team without a rim protector. So imagine if that player at the center position is, instead of Jakob Perl, being Jonas Valanciunas. That's
I
going to be
think
pretty painful.
either way, you're not looking at the future at the 4 or 5 with either of those guys, right? They both present a glaring issue, which is, Jakob Pertl being 28 years old, Jonas Valanciunas, I think, being closer to 30. He's 30, right? Like, wait, he was drafted 2000. Yeah, he's around
Jakob is,
31.
I think, 29 or Jakob
No,
or JV.
Jonas. Jakob
Oh
is
yeah, JV is like
28.
30 or 31.
Jonas Valanciunas is 31. Okay.
Yeah.
So he will be 32 this year. That's crazy. Okay. But that being said, he can shoot. And that helps. And he also sets super solid picks. He's also an incredible rebounder. So you are losing some of the rim protection. I get that. But there is some weird theory to be able to say that even though he's not a great defender, he probably pairs better with Scotty Barnes as a player than Jakob Pertl does.
How about what are your thoughts on Vucevic then? Because I think Vucevic does a lot of the same stuff, but if anything, his offensive repertoire is much higher than JV's.
He's also
And
more
I believe they're around the
expensive.
same age. I think Vuce might be a bit older.
I don't think he's older, which is ironic because Alvin Williams called him an older guy. I mean, I think Jonas is like, he's what, man? He's been like, okay, so just to put this into perspective, Jonas Valanciunas has been roughly a 36% three-point shooter for the last 5 years, since leaving the Raptors, basically. So prior to leaving the Raptors, he was basically like a very low volume. He's still pretty low volume, but he takes like great threes. He can always stretch the floor. A lot of them are open. He's really evolved as a free throw shooter, which is something you don't have with Jakob, right? Like that is a huge, huge thing down the stretch, right? Yeah. Vucevic is 33. Jason saying Vucevic is 33. Damn, he's
Yes,
33.
he would be older. Yeah. I had a feeling he was older than JV.
I didn't realize he was that old. But yeah, so like, I mean, in terms of Jonas's like overall impact metrics, I mean, he's better. I think he's better. I don't know. I mean, there's some agreements or disagreements to be had there, but I can pull it up. One sec. Wrong. Stop. We'll do a comparison. I mean, this is a worthwhile discussion to have. I mean, Jonas would probably I think it would be cool to have him back personally. Another casualty of the Raptors championship just got traded for nothing. But I mean, yeah, 2.3 boxes minus 1.3 value of a replacement, solid efficiency, super productive. I mean, look at his rebound percentage last year. That's insanity, man. Like insanity. And also I remember him like with the Raptors, there's a very, very underrated playmaker, and that playmaking expanded like later with Memphis. Like
Looks like he doesn't miss much games either. I'm just looking at the games played.
yeah, he's super durable. So I mean, again, like I think the defense is legit. Like it's a concern. But if I compare him to you want me to compare him to Nikola Vucevic, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I just think like Vucevic gets a lot more respect as an offensive player than JV. I think, and I think, I mean, ultimately you're already sacrificing defense in both cases.
He's just
So
better, man. I think he's just better. Like he blocks more shots. Shoots 10% better at the rim. He shoots 8 to 9% better from the 3-point line. Vucevic is not good this year, or frankly, most years. Again, like, I mean, if you're talking per 100 possessions, Valanciunas scores more, rebounds more, blocks more, turns the ball over relatively the same, shoots better from 2, better from 3, shoots better. I mean, okay, he doesn't shoot better from the line, which is crazy at the line, but like, I mean, I don't know, man. Yeah, and in terms of defensive boxes minus, like Vucevic is almost always negative. I think like Vucevic is a worse defender than Jonas Valanciunas. And watching him today
yeah, he
in
was.
space against Bruce Brown, like he was one of the biggest reasons why the Raptors won this game. So yeah, and I mean, I'm assuming, I think I'm positive that he makes more money than Jonas Valanciunas as well. So I would take JV over Vuce for sure.
Yeah, yeah, I guess so. I mean, I think the 2 years as well makes a big difference.
Yeah, KJ2 Elite saying, do you think JV would want to come back? Bro, he never wanted to leave. He loved this place. He loved it. Now I'm not saying he doesn't love everywhere he is, but he really loved it here, man. He not enough was made about, it's funny, like there's so many guys who really hate leaving. So much is said about how like the Raptors can attract free agents and guys that want to play here. But I tell you, like, whether you're talking about Jonas Valanciunas, whether you're talking about Jose Calderon, whether you're talking about DeMar DeRozan, there's so many guys who
Norm.
never wanted to leave. Norman Powell, there's
Yeah.
so many guys. So yeah. Yeah, Matt saying JV had an underrated career for sure. JV is an unrestricted free agent. Yes, sir. Yes. So that's the other thing, It's like from the Pelican side, like, you could lose him for nothing too, right? So yeah, Jacinto saying Europeans love Toronto. Sure. Norman Powell is not a European, neither is DeMar DeRozan, dude.
So
Anyways,
what do you think the Raptors then will do with all that cap space? Because I think now we're projected to have a very good amount of cap space, assuming
if Bruce
Bruce is
Brown is
cleared.
traded, if if Gary Trent is not re-signed, if Chris Boucher is traded, if Dennis Schroeder is traded, man, if Jakob Poeltl is traded, holy shit, like you have completely cleared the books, right?
You've got max money right there.
You might have, yeah, like you might create like a max and a half spot. Like it's crazy how much cap space the Raptors could clear if they really, really wanted to. But that being said, making a trade for like someone like Dyson Daniels, still on a rookie contract, but could potentially upgrade to starter minutes as early as next year. I mean, think about the value on that, right? You have Scotty on a rookie contract, Dyson on a rookie contract, both are lottery picks, but I think combined sum total, they make like $14 million. So $14 million parked away to 2 starters. And you get RJ for 25 next year. So that's $39 million on 3 starters. And then you get Emmanuel Quickley's extension at probably $25 million. So that's like $65 million, $64 million for 4 starters. That's nuts. That's insane. So like you could have like some flexibility to get some depth pieces. You can sign players and then trade them at the deadline for expiring. You know what I mean? Like kind of like what the Pacers did for Bruce Brown, right? Like you could be a team that does that for some player. You know what I mean? Take a valuable player, sign them to 1+1, bloat up the contract, and boom, you can have a massive convertible expiring at the deadline next year. Plus you have the picks, plus you have Dyson Daniels, who I think is fantastic. Yeah. Man. Heim Dirk saying, nah, Herb over Dyson. Honestly, man, I love Herb. But I think I would prefer Dyson Daniels. He's just so much younger. Yeah, man.
I mean, I think the big incentive with Herb is the positional need. I think that doesn't exist as much with Dyson. I think maybe that's why if I would have to pick out of the two, I would probably pick Herb. But I see the incentive for both players.
He's like 5 years older, though. Does that factor into your equation at all?
I heard Herb's 25, 26?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think he must have been drafted pretty
he was
late,
drafted late, and he's like a late late pick. He's a second round pick, and you could say he's like a super hard worker. And the added benefit with Herb Jones is he's already signed to a crazy, crazy discounted contract. But with Dyson, like there's playmaking potential, athletic potential, and growth potential. And again, like with the development staff, like the Raptors, you want to bring in athletes. Ideally, you want to bring in guys who have that sort of upside that they could potentially unlock something with your development staff. And so, if we do a little cross comparison between Dyson and Herb, I think like you're going to see like the per 100 numbers are going to be like interesting. Yeah. So there's just like, okay, so let's pull the per 100. So Herb Jones scores more. Dyson is like rebounding better, passes more. He has like more steals, right? So he's more of a perimeter oriented defender, whereas and I mean like he's way further back as a shooter. Obviously 28% from 3, 65% from the line. The shooting is such a work in progress, right? But again, the difference between being 20 and 25 is enormous in the NBA. The fact that these numbers would be even remotely close at this stage is insanity to me. The fact that his value of a replacement is even remotely close is insanity.
At 5 years younger, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just saying, and his defensive boxes minus is higher. He's bleeding so much offensively. I don't think people realize how good Dyson Daniels is defensively. Like his point of attack, he becomes probably your best defender on day one at 20 years old. How do you even
better than Scotty?
Yes.
Okay.
You have to watch him play defense to understand the impact. Scotty is a very versatile defender. So Scotty's value comes at being an 80th percentile defender on almost all players, right? Whereas Dyson is a specialized defender where his value would come in, you can stick him on some other team's star and he becomes like a 96th percentile defender. I don't know a position that I can put Scotty, like, again, I've seen it in bursts where, the deny stuff, there's glimpses. And I'm not saying, they're just very different types of defenders, right? Like maybe you could make an argument that Scotty is a more useful defender when you have a lot of good defenders already. But if you don't have a lot of great defenders, which the Raptors really don't right now, then Dyson would be like the guy that you sort of like stick on. Like I think Alex Caruso is a great example of the type of defender that Dyson can be. Like a guy that you just stick on the guy and he just has relentless energy and he can move his hips and he denies and he forces like tons of uncomfortable shots and he gets really, really in your space and he shadows you. Like in a league which is increasingly moving towards help. He's a guy who can actually stay with this guy. And that's very special. He's super strong for his age too. That helps. He's like dialed in, like insanely focused. He's also super low usage. Again, on a team that, has spacing issues with Jakob Poeltl, probably going to be suicide to have like, oh my God, I can't believe I said that word on. Ooh, demonetized. There we go. It's probably going to be really difficult to have him and Jakob on the court together, especially if you expect to have like any sort of like pick and roll, effectiveness with that. But if you were planning to move off of Jakob and grow him as a shooter, I think like Dyson could really evolve. So
I mean, look, you were talking about athletic defenders. I mean, hypothetically speaking, Precious Achiuwa is an unrestricted free agent. So you throw the max at him?
No, I'm good. I think, I think I've had enough of the Precious Achiuwa experience.
Has the ship sailed? The
ship has sailed for sure. And, like I was never as down on Precious Achiuwa as like I think a lot of other people were. Like I remember going on a Twitter space and there was like a New York fan who was there and just like, tell me about Precious Achiuwa. And people were just like, this guy's going to make you want to like pull your eyes out and he's super bad at basketball and he doesn't belong in the NBA. And I'm just like, yo, chill. Like he's actually a pretty decent player. It's just when he's bad, it's so bad. Right. And I think that's like the best way to describe Precious Achiuwa is like when he's bad, he's so bad. But like I think
he's been better recently, I think.
Yes, he has.
In the last few weeks, yeah. which is good for him. I mean, I think he deserves it. He's back in his hometown as well. So
Yeah, home can do good things for people, man. But like, I think, to the people who are like really judging what the Raptors look like right now, like chill, like this is a team that is ridiculously undermanned, like so ridiculously undermanned right now. And the impact of not having a guy like, Emmanuel Quickly to just threaten to score the basketball, right? Like defenses are not reacting to guys like Bruce Brown and stuff. How have you been impressed with Jordan as impressed with Jordan Nwora, or were you more or less familiar with his game coming into this trade?
I wasn't, but now that I'm reading into it, I'm hearing a lot of people say that the lack of minutes in the Pacers was more out of role than him just not playing well. And I
Hmm.
think some of that has kind of been unlocked. I've been super impressed with him, to be fair, the last two games, especially. But I mean, it's a very small sample size. But he's got a lot of kind of what we need, like a spark plug off the bench. Um, I think he's a bit bigger than Gary as well, which is nice. So I mean, I think there could be something there. And I think if you look at, I mean, end of the season, he'll be a free agent, but this isn't a guy that's really going to be commanding that much money. So um, a mid-bench guy who's going for probably, I don't know, under 11-12 million dollars. I don't think that's entirely a
I
bad
think
thing
he makes like 3 million right now.
right now. But I think he'll probably
You
take.
think he's going to play himself into 12 million? Man, knowing the Raptors, oh
You
my
never know.
god. Oh my god.
You never
I'm
know.
worried.
You never
I am
know.
worried. No, I
Um,
mean, like, I'm just sick and tired of watching other teams get guys like Nwora on the minimum, and then watching us like pile $12 million on 3 years with a guaranteed team option on that third year, fourth year. Um, I don't know, man. I mean,
I would like us
he's
to re-sign him though. I think no matter what the price is. I know he's a bit older, but I think
he's
there's
25.
something there.
He's 25, dude.
Yeah.
He's not that old, so he's 25. Um, Karen Hall saying read today that Jordan is from Buffalo, has been a Raps fan and known Masai for years. Yeah, I
He's
mean, look,
Nigerian, so
yeah, he played
yeah.
for the Nigerian national team. I mean, what I like about him and what I do appreciate about him is that he doesn't seem afraid at all. Like there's no fear, there's no back down. Seems like a very confident dude. He just comes in, he knows his game. At 25, it's great. He has 3-level scorer potential, a little bit limited as a passer, but maybe that's something you can develop here. Again, development is not linear, but like I've seen a guy who at the age of 23 was a very, very useful player for the Bucks. Like a very good player. Like a very like I venture to say there were times where he was closing games. So yeah,
For a very good Bucks team as well. I mean,
yeah, it was an
yeah.
incredible Bucks team. So yeah, I think like there are just guys who fit in very well when the guys around them are good. Then there are guys who like I try to divide them into floor raisers and ceiling raisers. I think Noir is a ceiling raiser. Right now, I'm sort of seeing him function as a floor raiser, and it's very interesting. Yeah, I
It's
don't know.
worked out for him. I mean, he's had the scoring on pretty good efficiency as well. So we just hope that trend kind of continues, or maybe doesn't continue until after next season when we re-sign him.
Yeah, I mean he's been solid. I mean, really, like I think a lot of people just kind of like looked at that trade and they were just like, okay, this is for Bruce Brown and nothing, right? And they kind of washed over Kyra Lewis and they obviously washed over Jordan Nwora. And I remember, just looking at that trade and I'm like, they see something in these two players. They obviously brought them in for a reason. It's not just a salary match. Because there isn't like a long-term fit, in my opinion, for Bruce Brown on this roster. Now, watch me say this, and then they, don't pick up his team option and then extend him to a 3-year contract this offseason, which is an option, by the way, that
Wouldn't
they
put it
have.
past Masai.
Right. But I think Nwora fits this 0.5 thing that you're trying to do. It's like a bigger player. And again, like even though I'm not like super impressed with his defense and he does give up a lot and laterally he may not be the best, he is a bigger guy. You know, I was shocked actually, like watching him play out there. I don't know if it's because of his like proportions. I was like immediately like, is he 6'5",
Yeah,
6'6"? And then you look it up and he's like 6'8". I was like, shit, that makes sense. You see him saying next to Scotty
that
Barnes and
almost
he's like pretty
poster,
close. Yeah, and that
almost poster
dunk was
tonight was
insanity.
insane.
Yeah.
He reminds me a lot of. He reminds me a lot of. I don't know if it's the jumper, but he reminds me a lot of what we wanted Ron Harper to be. But as a much better shooter. Like in terms of the jump, I don't know if maybe it's because of the jump shot and they both have the curly hair, but I think their jumpers look pretty similar, to be honest.
That yeah, but they go in at a very, very different rate. I mean, Jordan's been like a 38, 39% three-point shooter for most of his career, and I don't think Ron Harper was ever going to touch that. But
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, I don't think they remind me of each other than the build. You could make
the
a
build,
case
yeah,
that like
yeah,
he's
the
kind of like
physical
a hefty
attributes.
guy with an afro, but like
Hmm.
that to me, like their game does not look alike at all. I think Jordan is just like a very like he's a he's a hooper. Like I don't know how to explain it. Like, but I remember when we used to play basketball, there were guys who would just come into the gym and you could tell them right away, and they were just like bucket. You know, they just get buckets. They get to their spot and then they shoot from that spot. And if you bump them off that spot, they have like a counter to get to that next spot. And they're just like they're systematic and very robotic, not robotic in a negative connotation, but like they are just professional scorers. That's what we like to
Hmm.
call them, professional scorers, right? So guys like Lou Williams, he's a professional scorer. He just comes in and he gives you buckets. You know,
Hmm.
Cam Thomas. You know, it's a guy who just gives you buckets. That's literally what he does. It's like it's his
Yeah.
job. Like he finds daylight and he gives you buckets. And it's Nwora has that has a little bit of that going
And
for him.
what I like as well is that the nicest thing about him is that even if the shot isn't falling, he's not the type to force it too much. I think Gary sometimes does have that issue where he can have a little slump and then all of a sudden you see him taking the shot, and it's brick after brick. I think
Mhm.
Noor doesn't really have that as much. I think it's more like you said, it fits the point five a much better than Gary, I think.
Absolutely. B. Ellen Son saying, Rob, did you get the coffee I sent you? Are you the person who sent me a coffee on? Yes, I did. Thank you very much. I got your Facebook message. That's super cool. I don't think anyone had sent me a coffee. I have this like link. It's called Buy Me Coffee, and it's like you're able to give people like $5 or $10, I think, or $15 gift cards to like coffee shops, and it's really cute. And yeah, so thank you very much for that. That's very nice of you. And yes, I did get it, and I have not figured out how, because I'm technologically challenged. I've not figured out how to exactly download it to my Google Wallet or whatever it is, but I will definitely have that coffee because Lord knows I'm going to need it. Busy, busy, busy with all this freaking pen dance prep.
Yeah, the film stuff. I mean, hopefully that goes well for you.
Well, here's the poster. What do you think?
Let me see. Yeah, I like it. I think it looks cool.
Yeah,
I'm trying to figure out what's going on because I'm on my phone screen, so I'm just trying to zoom. Um, yeah, I like it.
yeah. I need to figure out the name of the artist whose picture this is, the photograph. But I definitely hold on. I have
Is it sponsored by V-Rail? Is that what this is?
yeah.
Oh, cool.
So hang on one second. I'll figure it out. I wanted to give this artist a bit of a shout out because his photographs are freaking amazing. Where is it? His name is, hang on. Simon Zhu. So Simon Zhu, thank you for being such an awesome photographer. This picture literally encapsulates everything I wanted. Yeah, for penance. So Chaim Dirk saying, Rob, thoughts on Andrew Wiggins right now? Man, honestly, I don't know. I wouldn't trade for him, but that's just me. Yeah.
A much worse contract than RJ Barrett, if you ask me.
Yeah, for sure. Andre, what's the theme of the film festival? Story, dude. Story. Yeah, like it's yeah, it's really cool. So like basically there's a ton of I found there's a bit of a focus on. I want to say focus. There's a super Canadian focus for Canadian film festivals. Like they don't want to program a lot of Spanish films, Polish films, whatever. But some of these films are amazing. So this theme is just story. It's like stories that like punch you and change you. So my goal is you come into Pendance Thursday, you leave Sunday, you're a different person. That's always been my goal. So I don't know how we do it, through horror, we do it through action, we do it through comedy, but it's like something. And time again, I get an email like the next week saying, still thinking about this film or whatever. It's just the truth is like, what I find is like when I go on Netflix nowadays, when I'm watching a film, I'll often see like a lot of the essence and the truth kind of stripped out of it. Because a lot of these films that are made for millions and millions of dollars, there's all these test audiences and they kind of like, they zap the soul out of like what the film is supposed to be. You know what I mean? So yeah. Anyways, back to basketball. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. Like Andrew Wiggins is tough. Like I'm not like, you know, yeah.
What kind of Bruce Brown packages entice you the most in
Honestly,
terms of
like
realistic
the
ones?
Quentin Grimes one, that doesn't
I
move.
don't love it, to be honest.
What do you not love about it? Because like Quentin Grimes, like I mean, he's not Dyson Daniels and he's not Herb Jones, but he's a hell of a, he's a good defender, and you don't
Yeah.
have a lot of good defenders right now. Yeah.
I'll be honest, in terms of offense, it's in part to do because of redundancy. I think Gary gives you pretty much the same thing on offense, but better. And I think with the emergence of Nwora, assuming that goes well, I think he also gives you pretty much the same thing. So I feel like it would be a bit redundant on our roster to have another player kind of fit that bill. Although, again, both of those guys don't really defend as well as Grimes. It's that, and probably on a more emotional stance, that one
You is
instance of
not
him and
him.
Scotty last season. Yeah.
That might be good. Like I want Scotty to have guys in his thing like that are competitive, towards him, that can push him. Like I think like friction builds a little bit of fire. Like it's a good thing, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not too sold on the player, to be honest.
So what kind of Quentin Grimes packages? I'm sorry. Wow. Whoops. What kind of Bruce Brown packages do you like?
I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind us going for a Bruce Brown package, not necessarily that where we get picks, but maybe we add picks and then get a young player out of it. I think especially at the 3 and 4, we're looking so thin right now. So whether it be like we kind of go in for Herb Jones, and we add a pick, 2 picks into that package that with Bruce Brown. I think that would be good. I just don't know necessarily how the salaries would work. I haven't looked into it. But a player like Herb Jones, I think fits the bill a lot of what we need.
Right.
Trying to think who else kind of in the 3 to 4 in the league do I really like.
Would you ever consider like a Patrick Williams?
I'm not sold on the offensive upside with him at all. Like I think he'll stagnate.
Yeah.
That's the biggest issue. Although I do think in fairness to him, I think playing an hour offense where there's a lot more pace would do him wonders. But at the same time, I'm not sold on him being any more than a role player. Because it's when you have players like that who really have no offensive repertoire, I don't even if the defending is elite, I don't see it ever coming together.
Yeah. I don't know. I think the Raptors probably believe to some extent that they're pretty much set at 1, 2, 3 with Scotty, RJ, and IQ. I tend to agree that they probably would be better off getting like either a really big wing who has like some switchability 3, 4, or investing in like a super long-term prospect at the 5. Like right now, like as much as you may believe in Jonte Porter, he cannot be factored in as like you can't pencil him as a rotation player next year. You just can't. No matter how enticing the skill set is, he probably has to earn that. You don't want to walk into next season with him being like one of your top 10 guys.
Yeah.
So, like, you know, finding a big who can shoot to me would still be and defend is still priority number one. And to me, that player would be like Onyeka Okongwu. So to answer the question of like, I think like somebody asked, yeah, Andre asked, what bigs entice you right now that could be available? Onyeka, man. I, I
Yeah.
I think like there's something about that dude. Like he's 6'8", 6'9", but he's big. You know, he's like a big, and he's like, but he has like that hip mobility to be able to get out into the perimeter. He's been shooting a lot more. His 3-point attempt rate is much higher. I think it's sustainable, even if
Mm-hmm.
it's not like he's not a lights out shooter. He's not, but it's like it's respectable. You know, he can shoot from the corner, pop above the break, solid screen setter, pretty good shot blocker. But
He's
like,
pretty undersized though, as a
sure,
5. I think he
um,
would be giving up a lot of size.
yeah, yeah, he's pretty undersized, but I think there is like a quickness advantage and getting down the court quickly advantage, rim protection advantage. I mean, really, if you're looking at 7-footers who can get out to the perimeter and guard, a shooting guard, like you're really like you're talking about like two guys, maybe like maybe one guy. I mean, Wemby could probably do it someday, Like there
Mm-hmm.
just aren't a lot. Like you're always gonna have like a compromise here. Like that's what makes the Christian Koloko situation
I
so
was just
bad
gonna say that.
because
I was just gonna
he
say.
is a 7-footer who had that sort of like hip mobility to get out and guard a guard and not be completely useless in that situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
But barring that player, falling into your lap in the draft, you're gonna have to go out and get that player, and that's like probably the most valuable type of big. The big who can both like cover up and also drop, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Speaking of bigs, I want to get your thoughts on Zach Edey. I think I've got pretty strong thoughts about him, but I think a lot of the Canadian media is hyping him up a lot. A lot of our fans, I think, want us to take him.
well,
So
he's
what
an
are your thoughts on that?
insanely productive player. Probably the most productive player, one of the most efficient players in college basketball, and I think he's been moving a little bit better this year than he did last year.
Mm-hmm.
So again, it depends where, right? It really depends where.
Right.
If you end up like top 6 and you pick him at 6, that's a massive, massive reach.
Yeah.
If
Huge
you
reach.
end up taking him at 31 or even 28, I'm not totally against it. I would just hope that you understand that he's the third big on your roster and he's always going to be the third big on your roster. But a hell of a third big to have on your roster, right? Like
Yeah.
like once in a while, right? When a team like when a so interestingly enough, I'm always remembering like that Taco Fall, in I think it was in the bubble, or no, it was not in the bubble. Yeah, it was in the bubble. No?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was in the bubble. The Taco Ball bubble situation. The Taco Fall bubble situation.
Taco
I,
Ball.
I I was about to say Taco Bell. The Taco Fall bubble situation where Brad Stevens puts him in to guard the inbounder, which is Kyle Lowry. Kyle Lowry sails it in right over him because he just plays it wrong, and then he finds OG Anunoby, but he sails it over top, right? Now, that makes sense. Probably should have gotten a little bit closer, but nevertheless, maybe the refs helped with that a little bit. But my point is, having a big who can be situational as your 13th guy. I mean, I think the NBA just changed the game completely when they allowed you to have a 13th guy on the roster, right? It
Mm-hmm.
changes everything because that 13th player is never a rotation player. It is a complete free safety. And that safety should be a situational player. It should be a specialist. Zach Edey is a specialist. If you need a huge rebound with the game on the line down the stretch, he's your guy.
Mm-hmm.
If you need drop coverage, if you need a guy to just go in and make sure that the rim is protected, he's your guy. If you need a guy to guard in space and get up and down the court for like 12, 15 possessions, he's probably not your guy. But that being said, maybe he could develop into more than just that. I think he's like a third big who could potentially become a backup big.
I'm not too
Starting big
sold.
feels like hard for me to believe.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. No, I'm not too sold on him, to be honest. I think, like, especially the way the NBA is trending, it doesn't really work anymore. Um, like that the whole traditional big thing. I mean, it really does not work and these guys aren't usually very successful in our league anymore.
Well, I think bigs are kind of like making a bit of a comeback. Like, provided they can do something defensively,
mhm.
right? There is a huge benefit to his rim protection, and he would provide a lot of rim. Even if you don't think it's the most efficient brand of rim protection, he would provide a lot of rim deterrence,
Mhm.
right? Guys would be very uncomfortable going up. It's very uncomfortable. You change. So first of all, when a player is 7'4", it changes all of your angles. So that in itself will make players way less effective driving against the Raptors. If you have competent defenders around that can, force him away from any sort of, like, look at Brook Lopez. It's a great example. Brook was not a great defender.
The thing is, Brook can pop though,
yeah.
and
So
Zach
that'll
at
be
this point, I don't ever see it. I don't ever see him being a pop big.
Could he potentially develop like an elbow jumper?
I don't know. I think at this point, from what we've seen from him, if you get that guy out of the post, he's pretty useless. So how that bodes with this current era of basketball, especially with the fast pace, especially with like fast paced basketball aside, especially with the pace that we want to play at. He really doesn't, not even remotely, fit what you need to do on as a 0.5 offense. He would be very slow getting back. His speed, his lateral quickness is not great, and I don't really see him ever taking huge strides to fix these things. So
here's the thing: Zach doesn't take a ton of threes in games, right?
mhm.
But he does make his free throws at a competent rate for a big.
I don't think his jumper is broken per se.
So here's the thing, though: he can make threes. Like, he makes threes when he's messing around in practice. I think he did pretty okay at the combine. The issue is he doesn't take them in games. Now, why doesn't he take them in games? This could be a role thing. This could be a him thing. I don't know. But I think when a guy shoots 74% at the line, extending their range to three is never, ever, 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 ever going to be a problem. There's not a single person in the world that I think is, like, I'm curious actually what he shoots from the line before I talk on my ass here.
Someone in the comments is saying that Edishu very well. Zach Edishu shot very well from three at the combine.
There we go. Yeah, that's what I just said.
I don't know. I don't see it personally.
I mean, I've never been like overly sold, but like you have
He's putting up crazy numbers. I mean, props to him. It's insane what he's doing.
Yeah, so that's the thing, right? Like, you have to put into perspective like how a guy is finding advantages. Will those advantages be present to him in the NBA? Dude, he's a 15.6 box plus minus player.
Crazy.
It is insanity.
Yeah.
He gets to the line. His free throw rate is 82.3%. That's free throw rate, not free throw percentage. Just that is, like, I don't think I've ever seen that. like teams have no chance against this guy.
Yeah.
And like, oh my god, like, I would love to stack this guy's numbers next to Shaquille O'Neal in college, and I'm almost positive he'd have better numbers than Shaq in college. Per 40 minutes, he Jesus Christ, 31 points, 15 rebounds, 3 blocks. That's madness. And he attempts 14 free throws a night, and he's shooting.
It's going to be a Joel Embiid show up in Toronto if we do that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not suggesting that he's like a surefire. Like, I wouldn't take him in the lottery, but man, like, you have to give some sort of credit to a guy who has a PER of 38, man, because I don't think I've ever seen a PER of 38. Like, the last time I think I saw a PER of 38 was probably in the women's game, because the difference, not only the problem of the women's game, the difference of the women's game is when you're a star in the women's game, you are so much better than everybody else. Like, Candace Parker, probably in college was the last time I think I saw like a 30 plus PER. Like it's hard to do like 35 PER. Like you have to just understand the metric to just say like that is legitimately like the most insanely productive player I've ever seen in college basketball.
Mm-hmm.
So the numbers are crazy. And I mean, like the funny thing is 37 PER is actually down from last year, which was 40. He has a PER of 40.
What is he this year? Is he a sophomore or is he a junior?
He's a senior.
Oh, is he a senior? Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I mean, look, like some people might say, you know, it's a red flag that a player went back to college like this, but I don't think it's a red flag at all. In fact, if I was making the kind of money he was making in college from the NIL deals, I think like I would have done it too. So just take a look at his numbers for a second and just pull it off here. So just to put this up there, I think I'll see if I can pull up Shaq's numbers after, because like this is insanity. Yeah, so win shares per 48 is 0.339, which is insanity. 15.6 boxes minus. Again, like he's just first in like everything. First in free
those
throws.
numbers are crazy.
Yeah, like I mean, appearances on leaderboards, number 1 in points in the Big Ten, number 1 in points per game, number 1 total rebounds. Like the last time I saw someone dominate a sport like this, it was like, that's just crazy.
And yet he's projected. I mean, his projections are pretty low. I like last I checked, he was projected like maybe late first, early second.
Yeah.
So I think I mean, it obviously means that the weaknesses are glaring.
Sure, you know, but like again, look at Shaq. You know, there's your first. You know, it's hard to dominate a game this much. I think with teams increasingly moving away from players like Zach Edey, you have to ask yourself, how much more capable are NBA centers to deal with his size and what he can do as a
Put on
post
Yeka
hub?
Okongwu. Try putting on Yeka Okongwu on Zach Edey, see what happens.
Dude, it's like he's a foot taller than him almost.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Well, here's the thing, like, and this is why I say he'd be a great like second unit big. If your second unit can kind of hub around him, his passing is decent.
Mm-hmm.
That's the other difference. His passing is okay. Like I like his basketball IQ overall. So yeah, Yuffie saying he is like Taco Fall. No, he is not. He is not like Taco Fall. I watched a lot of Taco Fall. He is definitely not like Taco. Yeah, man. I don't know. So yeah, like look, I've never been very high on the Zach Edey train. A lot of people bring him up in the chat because he's Canadian. They always say like Zach Edey, and I'm just like, yeah, I don't really get it. I'm not really for it. But overall, I think he's someone that should be looked at. He's definitely someone who should be looked at.
Yeah, I would take a swing on him, depending on where it is again, of course.
Yeah. Are there any other guys you like in the draft?
No one sticks out to me. I think I do like the projected first Alex Sarr.
Okay.
I think there's a lot to like about him. At his age, he's playing in Europe. He's already doing pretty well for himself. I think he's 18.
Right.
So, I mean, we've seen a lot of guys come out of Europe. I'm not a huge fan of the G League guys this year. I know there's a few projected.
The Ignite program is in very big trouble. In my opinion,
it's not. I'm not a fan.
They haven't had a lot of success, guys.
Yeah. Even Jalen Green, who was like the poster child. I mean, you're seeing what's happening now. So, I'm pretty sure he's posting like negative box plus minus for the last like 2 years. So,
yeah, for sure. Anyways, man, any closing thoughts?
No, that's about it. But I think I just want to end with I really hope the Raptors commit to a direction, because I don't like winning if we're not kind of committed to winning. If we're going to go for the pick, then I think that should be our focus from now on. And Scotty should definitely not be playing as high minutes as he is, if that's the direction that we're trending in. So I just hope that whatever it is that we do, we decide quickly, and we don't, like we mentioned it last, like kick the can down the road, which we're synonymous for doing.
Yeah.
So I just hope that we kind of just figure out what we're going to do and commit to that, instead of this bittersweet feeling of us winning some games and not being sure if we're meant to be celebrating that or meant to be mourning it.
Yeah. Yeah, I would love to see them rest Scotty, but it's like I don't know Scotty to rest games ever, but maybe the All-Star weekend will give him a chance because at this point his
Doesn't seem
numbers have
likely.
just
Yeah.
they've gone down at the wrong time, and any sort of he could have, like, if he really wanted to chase it, he could have just come out, put 30 points on the board, but I don't think he has the legs for it right now, so it's not going to happen. Yeah. Anyways, take care, man. Have a good one.
Thanks, man. Have a good night.
See ya. Okay, we go to the post game in 5, 4, 3, 2. Damn. My bad. Forgot. Did I download it? I downloaded it. There we go.
Tangible result?
No, for sure. Did a lot of good stuff tonight. We talked about area for us of improvement is rebounding. We kept this team to 6 offensive rebounds, and we did much better job of protecting the paint. Allowed them only 46 points in the paint. So we gotta definitely be happy with that. Be happy with the win. Ended up the game with another high number of assists. Ball movement was good. Got a lot of good stuff to learn from and get better at.
Haven't come through 5 tough losses. Like getting a win sort of gets in their heads. You talked about it yesterday a little bit, like showing a tangible result for playing hard.
For sure. I really have to give a lot of credit to our group of guys. They really work hard. They're really into dissecting the film and getting better. We lost 5 games, but we were in all of those games. We were like, in games, and it was a couple of possessions that decided one way or the other. So keeping up their spirits, building those guys up, and next man up mentality. Tonight, Ted Young with 16 points, 6 assists, and 6 rebounds. Like, we got to recognize that. And Gary, started the game really well, shoot the ball really well. A lot of guys really contributed. I was happy with Jalen McDaniels' minutes there as well, off the bench, as well as Jordan Nwora. Plus, in the game, we lost Jonte Porter with some lower back pain, so he was not able to come back and finish the game.
You guys were still able to get a fair bit of offense in the paint. What was working for you? I saw a fair number of interior passes, but what was kind of the key for a small team to score at the rim?
Yeah, we were really looking to attack certain matchups so we can attack the paint. Obviously, we have players in Scotty, in Dennis that can touch the paint, on a will. We were able to get 20 times to the free throw line as well, made our free throws tonight. And, when we move the ball and they find open shots like that, touching the paint actually opens up shots for us, So multiple actions, multiple backdoor cuts, because they were trying to go and blow up all of those DHOs and off-ball screens, and we kept talking about cutting and cutting and cutting. That is going to create offense for us.
Spoke about the things you were doing to try and contain dribble penetration. It looked like at the end, certainly, there was a lot of trapping, especially DeRozan got some turnovers. How nice was it to see your guys adjust to that game plan, which really hasn't been a huge thing for you guys this year?
It's a work in progress, and there are moments that we do it really well, and there are moments that definitely we need to go back to film and back to practice and continue getting better at.
Both of you guys gave up a basket in like the last 8 minutes of the game. What did you do? Did you do anything differently, or just do things better?
We did it better. Our focus was on very high alert. We stayed down on shot fakes. We were able to contain in some of those situations on against DeRozan, and then at the end of the game, we went last couple of minutes. We every time we trapped him and wanted to get the ball out of his hands. If anybody else is going to beat us, they're going to beat us. But we didn't want DeRozan tonight to be the guy.
Coach, I know that Thad, he played limited minutes to start the season, but he's obviously been a key factor, especially in this stretch of injuries. What are you liking from what you're seeing from him, and especially even just tonight?
I mean, I can speak about Ted Young for whole night. It's not just like what he does on the court; it's everything that he does off the court as well. this whole season when he was not playing, he was not in rotation. He always stayed in shape. He was always part of the play groups. He always was the right voice for our team. He was always building our guys. And it's great to see him to be on the court out there playing. And now even more, his voice has a value because now he's sharing the court with players and he can help them on the court even more.
Billy was speaking about him before the game, knowing that he's a pro who will be ready for everything. Did he talk to you about what you were getting in Thad before the season, or is it just a nice, not surprise?
It is not surprised. Everybody who knows Ted Young for short 17 years in NBA know what he brings to the team, and we're just lucky to have him as a vet on our team.
Gary, what's it been like for you the last month or so with things changing so quickly because of first the trades, then the injuries? What have you found the adjustment like in general?
Everybody's just trying to figure it out and, roll with the punches in a sense. Like you said, it's been a lot of new pieces. Again, we have a whole new team this year, starting out the year, and then got basically a whole new team within 30 games. So, just trying to stay afloat, balance it, continue to keep pushing, continue to keep working, be an energy giver, and go from there.
13 points in the first quarter. Was it a conscious effort to get a quick offensive start for you guys to get the game into a pace and a flow that you're accustomed to?
Really just the opportunity presented itself. Was swinging. Teammates found me. Just knocked down some shots early, got it going, and, went from there.
Gary, your season's been after a little bit of a slow start, it seems to just hit your stride, and particularly the looks you've been getting from three, you've been knocking it down. Is there something, did it take a little time to maybe find a good rhythm with the way Darko wants to play, and is it suiting you in terms of the level of ball movement and player movement?
Again, just trying to figure it out. It's a whole new bunch of pieces, a whole different offense, just trying to figure out where your spots, where you're going to go. Again, whether I'm playing 35 minutes, 30 minutes, or 25 minutes, which is half the game, I'm going to go out there and try to contribute to winning as much as I can. So that's really my only focus and goal going in every game.
I don't know how many games in a row you guys have had 30 assists now as a team, but as a shooter, are you finding, is it easier to get into a rhythm because the ball is going to be flying out and there's opportunities if you're moving, your feet are set, that there's a good chance the ball's going to find you?
Yeah, really just opportunity coming to your hands, the minutes, going out there playing hard and just trying to impact winning.
Change your role when you have Yak out, Jonte was out tonight. How does that change the dynamic on the court for you on both sides?
I wouldn't really say it changes too drastic. Again, it could help in a sense, have us be more spaced out. Again, we're going small a little bit. Thad is still playing, great and slashing and rebounding and doing stuff like that. But, we play more 5 out in a sense. But, either way, I feel like I should be able to adapt and adjust to no matter, who's who.
What have you grown to appreciate about Thad over the last 2.5-ish years?
Just his approach to the game, his mindset, his knowledge. I would say, the things he talks about, the things he sees on the floor, the countless of situations that he's been in. So, he's like a Old Testament book that got all the rules.
Just in terms of next game, looking ahead a little bit, how weird will it be to see Fred maybe?
Never be weird. It's going to be great to see him, and I hope he's blessed and hope he's good. We'll see him when we get down there.
Weird. Trying to carry it.
Yeah. It's a tough, too tough.
Just before we get to Thaddeus Young, I just want to point out that Gary Trent Jr. as a starter is freaking ridiculous. He's averaging 14 points per game as a starter on 51.4% three-point shooting. That's insanity, right? Granted, it's 11 games, and I think tonight would be the 12th game, if I'm not mistaken, and that's not being factored in. But he's 15 points per game on serious efficiency. Madness. All right, let's get to it, Thad Young.
Tough bigs to go against. Vooch and Dre. They're just two big guys that know how to rebound the basketball, very physical. takes a toll on you. But the one thing I'm willing to do is fight with them and do the job that's needed to be done.
Facts.
What's your mindset when you're going in and knowing that pretty much every minute on the floor you're going to be facing one 7-footer or another, and pretty physical guy in Drummond especially?
I mean, for me, it's always about like the battle. Like, I enjoy the competition level. So for me, I'm willing to take whatever challenge there is, whether it's me going out there and guarding guards or me going out there and guarding my position or playing at center. So, it doesn't matter to me. But my mindset is always just do the best job I can and then live with the results.
You said you enjoy the competition. Obviously, minutes have been up and down the last few years. Does that make the competition when you get it at this level even more enjoyable?
Yeah, I mean, for me, anytime I can step on the court and be able to play against guys at a high level and still be able to do this after 17 years, it's always gonna be great for me. If I didn't enjoy the competitive nature of it, I've been done 3, 4, 5, 6 years ago. So for me, it's always gonna be about that competitive spirit and just being in that battle with my teammates.
I know that your age is always brought up in these conversations. How how old is that conversation getting for you? Because clearly he's just praised you.
Bro, he's 35. He's not 50. We saw a guy go till 43 in Vince Carter. He's 8 years away from that. Like, what are we talking about?
For how well you take care of your body, and we can see how you're moving on the court as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't pay too much attention to that. Yeah, I'm 35 years old, but that's young in regular life. But
Bro, I'm 36. What the hell? Thaddeus Young is old enough to be literally my younger brother. This is insanity. Like, come on.
When you play over 1,000 basketball games, that's old to everybody else. But for me, I don't pay attention to that. I just continue to play and show that I can continue to play at a high level with these guys. And as long as I'm able to do that, I'll continue to play.
I mean, do you think you've opened your eyes for some of the guys who maybe haven't seen you playing the kind of minutes you normally play certainly for most of your career, and like they've seen you do all the work, they know what you're all about, but to go and deliver it in real time probably matters.
Yeah, I definitely think it has. Open guys' eyes to making it to where I have in year 17 and being able to still play at a high level by doing the things that's needed, taking care of my body and making sure that I'm doing everything I need to stay in shape when I'm not playing, and then just doing the extra work. So for me, God's blessed me with health, and I'm grateful for that each and every day, and hopefully I continue to stay healthy and continue to be able to play at a high level, and we'll see where it takes us. But definitely think it's opened some guys' eyes to see that it's possible. It's a possible thing that you can do. I try to tell guys all the time, you can play 15 years in this league if you do the things that you need to do early on in your career, and that's what I started off from day one doing.
Both Billy and Darko have praised you tonight for your professionalism, the way you comport yourself around the team. Where does that come from in your personality, and how does that make you feel when you hear guys praise you for that? I'm
just a laid-back guy by nature, so for me, but I would probably say it came from Doug Collins. He gave me opportunity to be a leader of a team that we had with the Sixers, and he would always tell me, just be a leader. Continue to keep your personality, but still be a leader, and still, because your presence and your voice is always, it's always going to be louder than what you think. And for me, when I speak, I try to speak when it's needed. When I'm talking to guys, I'm trying to deliver the knowledge, in a way to where they're very receptive to it, as opposed to biting back. And then I'm really good at evaluating my teammates and understanding how I can talk to them in certain game situations. And that's worked out for me my whole career. Just being able to go to guys, talk to them, being able to kind of be that arm, between the coaches and the front office and the team.
I remember sitting with you in a San Antonio practice gym 2 years ago asking you how much longer you're going to be doing this. So I'll ask it again. How much longer are you going to be doing this?
That's the question.
What's the answer?
That's the question. I don't know. For me, it's always gonna be like about my family. I have two sons who are getting up in age. TJ is 13, Taylor's 10, but more so for TJ. He's 7th grade now, so as the years go by, he gets older, and I definitely want to start putting a lot of time and work into him, and making sure that I give him the same opportunities I had. But that's just something I have to sit down with my family and just talk about. They've been saying go to year 20. So
Can you do it?
I mean, yeah, physically, yeah, I'm fine. Nothing's wrong with me. I'm healthy. Continue to go, but it's just at that point, it's just a matter of how much longer I want to play.
I saw you catching up with Kobe after the final buzzer. What were you saying to him?
With Kobe, I just told him I'm proud of him. How when Zach went down, he kind of stepped in and took over that role. Scoring the basketball, playing at a good flow, a good pace. All the development over the course of the last 4 or 5 years, it's paying off and it's showing. And he's doing a great job. I'm just very happy for him because it was tough for him his first couple of years, and with the change in the coaching staffs and front office changing a little bit, and when you don't have that that stability behind you, it's a little hard. But now they have the stability and they have the development system for him, and he's done a hell of a job of being receptive to that and building them. Done a hell of a job of continuing to develop.
You've had, 2 weeks now, 10 days to play with Bruce Brown. He was really good tonight, and I'm just wondering what your impressions are of him as a player and teammate.
Bruce is a basketball player. He knows how to play, and that's what you want on your team. You want guys who know how to play, who know how to make reads, and knows how to, just go out there and just be a glue guy and jump into the system. And he hasn't played with us very long, but it's like he's been here for the whole season. Just because he's going out there, he's very receptive to listening to when guys are telling him where to go, how to do certain things, what to do. Me personally, before every play starts, I try to tell him okay, go over there, do this, do that, just so he'll know. But he's, like I said, he's a basketball player. He knows what to do. He knows how to play. He knows how to cut. He knows how to make reads. When you have guys like that, it just makes the game easier.
And then just in terms of just bouncing off of that, even with Jordan Nwora, what's standing out to you about him?
Hell of a job last game as well. He's came off the bench from not playing, very minimal, and lighting it up, just stepping in and doing his job and staying ready. And like I said, that's another guy that you love guys like that who can just step in and play, and and it just fits like a glove. And he did a hell of a job coming out tonight and making shots, playing defense, and getting downhill, putting a lot of pressure on their defense.
Thanks for watching.
Okay. So the Raptors move an inch, unfortunately, away from the Portland Trailblazers, just as the Portland Trailblazers tried to move an inch towards the Raptors. Both teams win, and that gap of 3 games remains for the Raptors to catch 5. I don't think they're going to catch it, as I mentioned. I think the teams beneath them are just too bad to catch. I have a feeling that Memphis, losers of 2 straight, are probably going to be hard to out-tank, right? So, probably you're looking at 7th, 8th, 9th as a basement, and 10th, 11th, 12th as a floor. We're talking from the bottom, guys. We're not talking from the top. And is it a valuable thing to get those reps in? Yeah, sure. There could be a internal, people are trying to figure out what the hell the Raptors are trying to do right now, because clearly if you're trying to win, it does make a hell of a lot of sense to be, not playing Otto, right? Not sign Bismack Biyombo or a serviceable center. Continue to play small, right? Play Grady fourth quarter, closing minutes when, he's a rookie and he's going to make mistakes that maybe more experienced players aren't. I think you can make a case. The fact that they're playing guys like I mean, look at the guys who are actually playing. You know, it seems like what they're trying to do is exhibit every single player for a trade. That would be my read on it. Nwora is tradable. So you could potentially trade Nwora to a team that sees him as a... I mean, there are a lot of teams that could use Jordan Nwora, man. Like, let's be real. Like, you might want to keep him. You might want to re-sign him. But, like, the Raptors might not. They might see it as an asset that they don't necessarily have big plans for later down. I mean, this could be a guy who could net you, you know, a couple second-round picks. Is that worth it at this point to just stock up your assets? Maybe. You know, maybe. If a team has a couple of second-round picks in the 2025 draft that you expect to be in the, you know, 30s, wouldn't that be worth it? You know, for Jordan Nwora, could you find yourself that player later? Obviously, Nwora is subject to the same conditions as, you know, a player like Bruce Brown is, which he cannot be packaged with anything else, right? But obviously, you're not exhibiting RJ Barrett. But by not playing RJ and Emmanuel Quickley right now, provided that they're healthy enough to play and that there's just some sort of internal mandate to kind of hold them out, then you're also not building up the chemistry that you need going into next year with those guys. So again, I think I understand, you know, based on all the talking about how the Raptors plan seasons, think about seasons. They talked about this being, you know, after Pascal Siakam got traded, and then they had that little bit of a break. They talked about it being like a bit of a training camp, right? But now you're not playing a lot of the pieces that are required to build the chemistry that you're clearly going to be trying to build going forward. Emmanuel Quickley and Scotty Barnes need to learn how to play together. They just do. And the more they do it, the better they're going to be playing off of each other. IQ needs to learn how to play with Jakob. Again, provided Jakob is part of the future, those two need reps to play together. The Raptors may be thinking of it differently. They may think of it as, okay, let's consider everything prior to the trade deadline as an exhibition for every single player that is going to be trade eligible at the deadline, which is pretty much every single player other than Scotty Barnes, the guy who was out there trying to glue guy everyone together, and Emmanuel Quickley and RJ Barrett, who were in street clothes today, and Jakob Poeltl. If those are the four guys that are off the table and everyone else is on the table, well, guess what? Now the guys that are on the table, like Gary Trent Jr., huge game. Bruce Brown, big game. Gary Trent, Chris Boucher has had moments this season, but granted has not been playing super well lately. One of these guys just popping off for a 20, 25, 30-point game might just entice somebody into thinking, the numbers look pretty decent. I don't know if that's the way most general managers think who should have their jobs, but that's certainly the way someone who shouldn't have their job thinks. And again, the Raptors won tonight based on the efforts of guys like Jordan Nwora and Bruce Brown and Thaddeus Young. All of these guys are trade eligible. All of them. And all of them should probably be dealt if there's even a half a pick coming back for them. Otto Porter, again, trade eligible, just setting him on ice. They talked about having a longer-term plan for Otto this season. I always interpreted that as they're going to ramp him up in January, and if they're competitive, he's going to play in the playoff push. Okay. So let's say on February 6th or February 7th, which is about a week away at this point, like that's making me kind of nervous because every time I think about the trade deadline, I'm like, oh my God, that's 2 weeks away from Penn Dance. Yikes. But February 8th. When February 8th comes, I think the cards will be put on the table in terms of what the Raptors were dangling, what they actually want to do with this roster, what their plans are for this offseason. If they end up trading Bruce Brown or Dennis Schroeder or Jakob Poeltl or any one of these players for salary beyond this offseason, okay, you can be pretty assured that they're not planning to be big players in free agency, and maybe we can put those OG Anunoby returning rumors to rest. Maybe you can park off some of that Nick Claxton hype, Isaiah Hartenstein. There's a lot of guys that you could potentially be chasing this summer. If they do end up trading picks away, right? If they end up like shedding off some of these second round or first round picks that they've acquired for RJ in the RJ and Emmanuel Quickly trade, and then also in the Bruce Brown trade, where basically the Pascal and OG trades. Now you can start to see that the Raptors might be pushing for, I don't know, the play-in. Like if you end up like making a package deal for Herb Jones, or even like something to just better yourself a little bit. Herb Jones certainly does that. Massive upgrade on Bruce Brown. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do. And I think what they do over the next week is going to give me like a clear indication of where the hell the rest of the season's going. But do not lose faith, Raptor faithful, because this right here, catchable. This is totally catchable. You're 4.5 games back of Chicago, who currently hold a play-in spot, right? Atlanta's been, I guess, halfway decent, but they're not really. I mean, one of those wins was against the Raptors. It certainly seems to me that the Bulls are catchable. And, you know, if you end up chasing for a play-in, just think of it this way. And I guess this is the best way to look at this. Your record is a reflection of who you've been for 82 games. It is not usually a record or a reflection of who you are walking into the playoffs, right? There are a lot of teams that stumble into the playoffs, right? A lot of coaches talk about playing your best basketball going into the playoffs. So let's say the Raptors basically, let's say they're just not very good for the first 55 games of the season, which, I mean, we're almost at the 55 game mark now, so they haven't been very good. But let's say for the last 27 games, they're crazy good. Let's say for the last 27 games, you're 17-10. I mean, number one, you might make the play-in as a team that frankly shouldn't have been in the play-in to begin with, especially if you make some roster upgrades on this roster by shedding picks. You could also make a case that the teams that you're playing against might not be heading in the same direction as you. So really, I've always looked at it as like, you know, there are a lot of teams out there that, you know, they kind of start slow and around January, February, they turn it on and then they guns blaze. And you're just like, okay, that team is going to be a really tough out because they've been playing the best basketball. Their defensive rating's been top 5. Their offensive rating been top 10 in the last 25 games. That's the team that you face in the playoffs. It doesn't matter what you did in October. Yeah, sure. I mean, consider the Memphis Grizzlies, you know, where they were going with Ja Morant. They won like 4 straight when he came back and things were looking pretty decent. And so if that team had ended up in the play-in, you can make a really solid case that those first 25 games are the reason they ended up in the play-in without Ja Morant. And, you know, I mean, granted, they had a lot more injuries, and that's c'est la vie. It's, you know, it's too much to overcome. But I think there's still a chance that the Raptors turn the season around. And yeah, every one of these wins is like a dagger into whatever tanking efforts you're going to make. Because again, the teams that you're competing with for that bottom 6 record are just so much better equipped to tank. You know, they just are. And unless you're planning on shutting Scotty Barnes down for the season, and I mean, again, next week, we could see a trade where, you know, all your vets are going out, young players and picks are coming back, and you're like, okay, direction has been solidified. This team is obviously going very young. They're trading away serviceable vets that help winning right now. They're clearly going for the tank. And then they're probably going to start shutting down Scotty for 10 games or whatever. He'll probably hate it, but them's the breaks. And then that way they can develop RJ and IQ, and they can kind of like isolate the development of these guys. And then, you know what I mean? And then maybe like for the last 10 games, they'll like put them all together, but then they'll put them with like G League players. You know what I mean? There's always, like, as I said, it's a critical mass argument. If you play 2 to 3 guys in your rotation, significant minutes, who don't deserve to be NBA rotation players, you will not win basketball games. Regardless of who else you put around them, you will lose basketball games. Unless one of those players is like a superstar, like a top 6, top 7 player. So there's very creative ways to lose basketball games without completely sitting out your whole roster, right? So I'm just looking at this as I'm looking forward to seeing some direction, but it doesn't strike me as this team would completely punt 35 to 40 games of development in order to chase a 45 to 44% chance that they're going to be able to draft top 6 in this draft, especially because there are implications going into next year where you have an exact repeat of the situation. And again, the consequences of losing this pick next year are so much worse that to not be able to control your destiny, I'll just throw out a hypothetical. Let's say a key rotation player gets injured in the offseason and is going to miss like 6 months, right? So now you come into the season missing that key rotation player and you end up like 2-18 or 5-18 to start the season. It's very beneficial to tank, very beneficial. But guess what? Same situation. You can't. And to those people saying that the 6th pick in this draft is better than the 10th or the 11th pick in next year's draft, don't be so quick to say that, because I don't think it is. And I think you have a lot of flat parity in this draft. The easiest way to explain it is the gap between the best player in this draft and the 30th best player in this draft is about as small as I think I've ever seen it. No, I don't know, ever, but it's the smallest gap I've seen in a very long time, which might be why a lot of people aren't excited about having a top pick in this draft. Also why maybe you should be really excited about having a late teens or early 20s pick in this draft, because you're probably getting, like, I think the best way to explain this would be that the number 1 to number 6 picks in this draft are probably closer to the value aggregate. I'm not talking any one player. The aggregate value of those 6 players is probably equivalent to the aggregate value that we typically recoup from picks 7 to 13 in most drafts. Okay? If that makes sense. Right? There's a lot of guys picked 7 to 13 in last year's draft that would be in contention for those 6 spots this year. Bilal Coulibaly would definitely be in conversations if he had stayed in, and played international basketball for one more year with his evolving jump shot. I think there'd be a lot of people talking about him as a top 4 pick. He was a stretch at 7 last year, right? Derek Lively, if he'd gone back to school, I think he'd be in the conversation for a top 5 pick this year. Grady Dick, right? Like, again, I think he'd be in top 7 conversations. Cason Wallace, if he'd gone back to Kentucky, again, a lot of those Kentucky guards would not be ascending up. He'd be the best player on that team. He'd probably be a top 6 pick. Again, he was 12th. So there's a lot of guys that you can make a very solid case for. There are guys who were even picked outside of the lottery, like a Cam Whitmore, Keontae George, that would be in top 8 conversations this year. However, pick 17 to pick 25 look a lot like pick 17 to 25 in most years. Does that make sense? This draft is flatter than usual. That's my read on it. I'm not a scout right now. I haven't done enough research on this draft to talk very intelligently about it, but that's my read, watching as much as I've watched. Now, granted, let me just do some quick updates for those of you who have come to expect, some lives and a lot of content from this channel. For the next 24 to 23 days, this channel is not going to be tumbleweeds and death, but it will be a little bit more quiet. It will be more quiet because I'm the festival director of Penn Dance, this, thing that I've been talking about for the last 3 months. And it's a lot of work, man. It's work and I love it. And prior to Pensar basketball, it was, probably my biggest accomplishment as a human being, creating this festival. We have films coming from around the world. We have filmmakers coming from around the world, all over the world, coming in from Europe, Asia, United States, South America. We have an incredible lineup and we've put that together. And yeah, I think with everything that I do, whether it be Pensar basketball or Penn Dance, I want to know that something I'm doing is positively influencing someone's life. people message me and say, I quit my job because of something you said, or I ended my relationship because of something you said. That's a lot of pressure, but also I hope that it was from a good place. Some people also say, I've had to rethink my relationship with my parents because of this story that you shared. This is good. I've always hoped that this was more than a basketball podcast and more of like a story podcast. It's a story about the Raptors, sure, but sometimes it veers off and we have discussions about other things that have nothing to do with basketball. I think a lot of this, and my philosophy on this, comes from, guys like Brian, that I did an interview with last week, where he talked about, in our first Scotty interview, he talked about what he does with Handle Life and the work that he's doing with kids. And he talks about making better people through basketball. That really stuck with me. Basketball can be such a vehicle to make better people, because if you teach somebody to become a great teammate, how are you not helping them become a better friend? You know what I mean? If you're teaching someone to never be late for practice and to always practice as hard as you play, how are you not instilling a positive work ethic that they can use in other avenues of life? The truth is, a lot of people that you're going to train as a basketball trainer are never going to become pro. Maybe they'll be D3, maybe they'll be D2, maybe they'll be D1. Maybe. That's a maybe. It's hard. It's super hard. The odds are super stacked against you. But maybe they'll be like a really good bench player on their varsity team, and that experience will teach them how to be a better friend and how to help people and how to pick people up when they're down and how to be part of a group and how to cheer on people when you're not participating in the winning and be happy for others winning. How are these not positive things? These are great things. These are great things to learn. So my long and short of it is, everything that I do is designed, in my opinion, and my desire is that everything that I do is creating the world that I want to see around me. Be the change you want to see is, generally speaking, like, always the message that I've stuck with. Penn Dance is a huge part of that. So is Pensar basketball. So Penn Dance unfortunately, it overlaps with a couple of Raptor games. It overlaps on the 22nd and it overlaps on the 23rd. I was talking to my girlfriend about this. I'm like, what am I going to do? Because I have been super freaking consistent with these lives all last year. When we started doing them, I never stopped doing them. And now I'm like, how can I be in two places at once? So what I'm going to do on those nights, which is crazy, but I'm going to do it because I love it and I love this channel, and I don't want to lose. I don't want to lose this streak. I'm like Mo Pete, when he never missed a game. I'm like the Iron Man. I gotta do this. I can't be missing lives, So what I'll probably do on those days, on the 22nd and the 23rd, is I'll be at the cinema, and in between screenings, because I'm not watching the screenings, I already watched the films. I'll probably try to, on the Sportsnet app, I'll watch as much as I humanly possibly can, and I'll watch the games while running a film festival. And probably during one of the screenings, I can do like a 20-minute live from the theater off my phone, and I'll do my best. But that is the damn, that's for the love of the game. But yeah, anyways, long story short, it's not going to be a super voluminous month for content on this channel, but I hope from my heart that after Penn Dance is over, which is on the 25th, I'm taking 1 week to just recoup my brain cells, because this entire process of running this festival is always like so all-consuming. I'm taking 1 week to just sleep and recover and eat and nourish myself and drink water, probably for the first time instead of coffee. And then I'm going crazy with this channel. And I'm going crazy with Penn Dance. We got to get sponsorships. We got to do all that stuff. We got reached out to, I'll actually share a channel update with you guys, which is kind of cool. We got reached out to by someone who sets up sponsorships, and they do sponsorships. They do sponsorships for 3 of the biggest basketball channels in the world. They offered to do our sponsorships, provided for a small cut, but nevertheless, I'm open to it. I'm going to meet with them. It's just cool. It's like crazy. Like, they don't just represent small brands. Like, they won't. So they see this as they were like, we checked out your videos. We think like you're on a cusp of doing something really amazing with this channel. We'd love to support it through the sponsorships and stuff. So I was like, no sports betting. That's my thing. Get me a freaking coffee sponsor and I will be the happiest person in the world. So, good things are coming for this channel. I plan to put in a ton of work in, March, April, May to set us up for the draft. All these picks that we have, I have a feeling that this is going to be like, mark my words, this date right now, whatever it is, January 30th, 31st, this date next year, you will be a freaking crazy fanatic Raptor fan. Like you'll be seeing like tons of numbers popping up. You're going to see another leap from Scotty in the offseason. Hopefully you'll see another leap from him at the end of this year when he finally gets some rest, right? And once we see this roster settle, so it's not like this bus terminal of moving pieces that come in and out, in and out, in and out, I have a feeling that we're going to see some of the most exciting basketball that we've seen in years. Will it be the spark of We the North? Will that come later this year? Is there some surprise run? I don't know. I hope there is, though. I really do. Because I am one of those people that I believe the earlier you do this, the better. I've said it before, I'll say it again. The hallmark of a championship team, top 10 defense, top 10 offense, typically top 5 defense, top 10 offense, top 10 player, and playoff losses, playoff experience. Losing together builds character. Losing as a team gives you data. The playoffs, if you make it, even if it is a 4-1 or 4-0 sweep against a much better team, you get significant information about the players on your roster, who they are when the lights get brightest, and it allows you to make much clearer decisions in the offseason about what you need or what you don't need. I think it matters. Granted, sample size bias, of course, 4 games is 4 games, 82 games is 82 games, but I think it teaches you something about the players you have. And look, man, like RJ Barrett has been balls out great in the playoffs. Emmanuel Quickley has been terrible in the playoffs. It might help to see these guys in the playoffs and see if those trends continue with the Raptors. Because if those trends do continue with the Raptors, as much as I love Emmanuel Quickley, that might change your feelings about Emmanuel Quickley going forward. It might also change how you develop him this offseason. Same thing with Scotty, right? We all have this hypothetical what would have been, could have been with Scotty in, the Philly series. If he doesn't go down, oh my God, he was on his way to a triple-double. The talking point is old at this point, though. That was a completely different role. He was like a roll cut big, doing that stuff. He wasn't like, granted, he played point guard, right? He's bringing the ball up the court. He orchestrated the offense in games 4, 5, and 6, when Fred went out. And I get all of that. But he wasn't very good in games 4, 5, and 6 on that bum ankle. Wouldn't you love to see like a fully dialed in, motivated, with playoffs on the line, under the brightest lights? This is the moment. Scotty Barnes, RJ Barrett, Emmanuel Quickley. Yes, I would love to see that. I need to see that. And the sooner you do it, the better. If you do it next year, you're losing that 1 year. I firmly believe it. So I'm looking forward to this team just picking a direction at the deadline and then going full on. And I don't want to see Otto being rested because he clearly is better than most of the players on this roster. He's better than Chris Boucher. He's better than Thaddeus Young, regardless of tonight. He's probably on the same level as an impact player as Bruce Brown. Okay. You're just sitting that guy out right now on the hopes that someone is going to bite on a trade. But man, so help me God, if Otto Porter is still sitting at the end of the rotation after the trade deadline, I want an investigation into this coaching staff in terms of what the hell they're doing, especially if it looks like they're trying to win, because he's the guy who helps you win, man. In so many ways. And for a team that is starving on defense, he's probably your second best defender on this roster. What are we doing here? This is craziness. Anyways, that all being said, let me look at these 23 comments here. Otto is washed, Rob. Don't be too high on him, brother. I disagree. I don't think he's washed. You don't want a prize picks, Rob? No, I don't. I absolutely do not. No. I think I mentioned this in a previous live. I went back and I counted. I had given up I think like if I had just gone with the betting sponsor, like when they offered, I think it was like $19,800 that I've lost by not accepting betting sponsorships. Won't do it. My sleep is so important to me. Granted, I don't sleep very often, as you can tell by the everything about my face. I don't sleep very often, but like sleeping at peace is so important to me. And to think that like I have people who trust me and that I would like shove sports betting in their face, because I'll tell you right now, like when people put sports betting on the screen and they start talking about it, it's not about like I tell you, like you're so much more likely to go do it. And I don't want to think like there's a 16 or 17-year-old watching me and seeing me promote this and not realizing it's a business and then going and doing it and then becoming addicted to it. Anything that even has a 10% chance to ruin someone's life, I don't want to participate. I'm sorry, like I can't. It's not shade to other people who do. I'm pretty sure almost every single sports, show that I listen to, they do it. From the Ringer to all the Toronto, peeps or whatever, to even friends of mine in this community, like they do it. There's nothing against anyone who does it, by the way. It's not against you if you do it. I'm sure a lot of people at sports bet. I've done it. But promoting it is a completely different matzo ball, bro. Like it's different. Facts. Never. Yeah. Like, I mean, as I said, like your integrity is everything. You're like, when I was younger, we used to say your word is bond, right? Like your word is bond. So you don't break promises. And I think the most important promises you shouldn't break are the ones to yourself. And, it's like, it's funny. I've always been this way. Like even with Pendants, like they put a lot of pressure on you to select Canadian films. And if you want to get big sponsors for Pendants, there's always this mandate that you got to pick this many women, this many Canadian films. And I'm just like, I don't believe in that. I can't stand for that because I've been affected by that in a very bad way. When I submit, I'll give you like my philosophy on this. It's just about maintaining integrity. When I submit to a film festival in Chicago, there's a very good chance that my film is better than a lot of films that are picked that are Chicago local. And I don't necessarily think that's fair because I paid the same amount to submit my film from Toronto. The problem is for their side, it's better business to select a local filmmaker to support local, right? And I get that. I totally get that. But for a film festival where you're charging everybody equal money, how fair is it to somebody who lives in a really poor country to somehow scramble together $50 to submit to your fucking film festival in Chicago, or in our case in Toronto, and they get bumped because you see the value of picking a local filmmaker? Now, of course, is the value of picking local, is that an ethical thing? No, it's a business thing. The person who's local is cheaper to bring to your festival. You don't have to pay for hotel. You don't have to pay for anything. And by the way, they have friends in the city and they have supporting people and they can fill your seats and then you have to market less. It's a business decision. You know what I mean? So that's how I saw it. And I was like, I'm never going to do that. I'm never going to do that. And you know what's happened? Everyone in the world noticed. So we get all these films from like Poland and Netherlands and Australia and Austria that would never submit to another North American film festival. They'll submit here. And they're incredible films. But the European film festivals, they don't do this. This is an almost exclusively North American thing. So yeah, anyways, I digress. Gets his bread though. But see, that's the thing. Like, okay, I'll tell you actually where this comes from. This comes from, so my mom, her uncle, she used to tell me the story. Her uncle was a lawyer and he had a policy, which is he wouldn't represent somebody. He was a defense lawyer. He wouldn't represent someone if he thought they were guilty. So if he met with them, he would ask them like honestly. And if he believed that he didn't get an honest answer from them, he wouldn't represent them. And at one point, I remember my mom telling me about this. She was talking about how like they were struggling financially because there was like some sort of recession, and like this is in Europe, during the 70s. And there was like a lot of hard times. And at that moment, his resolution was really tested because, like, it's like, do you let your family go hungry or do you go represent somebody that you think is guilty? He still chose the second path. And I thought that was really, you can argue all day if he's doing the right thing, but I just think that that's a great thing. That's a great way to live. Like, you don't want to be so cheap that you can just sell out. If you've ever noticed like my particular animosity towards Fred last year about like like anything for the paper, it's like I can't be like that. I can't support that. You know what I mean? It's never been okay with me. I can't do that. Yeah, there's just certain things that I want to support, like I remember, what was it like when I was 20 or 21, like I found out that my someone who was pretty close to me was cheating on his wife a lot. And yeah, I didn't say anything about it, but I didn't like it. And I kind of asked him about it a little bit. And then I remember him going to his wife and how normal he was around her. Couldn't really be friends with him anymore after that. I didn't snitch on him. They got divorced after, like a year after. Could have seen it coming from a mile away. I didn't do anything that I felt was underhanded. I didn't call him out. I didn't scream at him. I didn't try to get him to do something different. It was just an observation that I had that this is not a right thing to do. How can you do this? So my point is, if you want my parting note on this basketball live, which has nothing to do with life at all, right? It's live to your code. Like, define a code and then live with it and live to it, and don't break it for any amount of money. Yeah. Anyway, have a good one, guys. I'm off to update our website, put the tickets on sale and all that shit. Hope to see some of you guys there. There's some really awesome films. Some are horror, some are drama. I mean, a lot have subtitles. Fair warning. But I don't know if you guys have seen Parasite. When that film won Best Foreign Oscar, the director said like the greatest thing. He said there's like this 1-inch barrier at the bottom of the screen that, like, I don't want to butcher that quote. Gosh, what was it? Hang on. I'm going to end this live on that quote. It's basically like there's this 1-inch barrier at the bottom, the subtitles, and they stop people from embracing all these beautiful films from around the world. I got to tell you, some of the best films of my life, life-changing ones, have been scripted in languages that I do not understand, like Iranian, like Romanian, like Polish, like Chinese, like Hindi. And I guess my message is, like, with Pen Dance is always, the world is so much bigger than North America. You have to expand your horizons because there are people experiencing these like completely different, perceptions, but also they're so similar. How does your experience as a kid from Scarborough or a kid from Washington Heights compare to a guy in Thailand who's a monk, And there's like a thread of humanity that ties both together, which is very humbling too. So yeah. Anyways, yes, they fucking were. Dude, A Separation. This film is it's so good. It's, oh my God. So, I remember my ex-girlfriend and we turned on this film at 1:30 in the morning. A Separation by Ashghar Farhadi. We were dead asleep. Like, we were half asleep. I tell you, 5 minutes into this film, 5 minutes, we were more awake than we'd ever been in our lives. It was gripping as fuck. There's a couple, I don't want to compare any of the films that we selected at Pen Dance to this, but there's a film that we selected like a couple of days ago that had a very similar effect on me. There's a lot. So yeah. I'm curious, Fresh Paint, are you from Iran, or are you a cinephile? Yeah. Anyways, talk to you guys later. Have a good one and enjoy the non-tank. Tank wheels are off for one night. Raptors said F the tank. They punt the tank. Peace, guys. No, just like set him up. Well, if you're in Toronto, reach out. I think you would really like Pan Dance. Yeah. Take care, guys. See ya.